Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Civic Spectrum. Today, we're going to be looking at the 2024 Senate election, and I'm going to be giving my prediction on it. So, if you're into this kind of stuff, leave a like on the video, subscribe, and if there's any point in the video where you disagree with me or there's a part where you think differently, don't be afraid. Leave a comment. Let me know. I want to see how other people feel about these subjects as well. This election cycle, we're going to be having 34 Senate races, and they're going to be of varying degrees as well. So I think the first thing we can do is immediately let's go through and just label all of these safe states for both sides. The Democratic Party does not have a whole lot of safe states. You have Washington, California, Hawaii, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, New York. Vermont and Maine, those are independents, but they do caucus with the Democrats. I would even throw in Minnesota up there as well. Klobuchar is just a powerhouse up there. I don't know if there's anyone who could honestly beat her. We'll go over to the Republicans. North Dakota, Nebraska 1 and 2 are just easy layups at this point for the GOP. Wyoming, Utah, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Indiana. So I think that these are the seats that are safe for both sides. So we're already at 47 to 41 with 12 toss-ups left. And a lot of these I think could go either way, honestly. Having a Trump versus Biden rematch, this sounds like it would have the enthusiasm levels down across the aisle when you look at the polling on this subject. However, when polling shows that people are unenthusiastic, that normally means that the DNC is going to be worrying about turnout. The GOP does statistically better when there's less turnout, so this could go in their favor. We can start looking at the lean seats as well. I think these also favor the GOP currently. If we look at West Virginia, that's just honestly another easy layup for the GOP. Joe Manchin's already out the door. He's been looking at like third party presidential run with no labels. He knows that someone could honestly anyone with an R next to their name is going to kick him out. He's never even ran in an election cycle against Trump. He's always been on one of the off years. So he's just out the door. The two more seats that I think are just lean is Florida and Texas. While I would say that Cruz and Scott aren't the most enthusiastic people you'd want to vote for, and they've had a lot of gaffes over the last couple of years. Ted Cruz with a lot of the gaffes of not being in his home state during disasters, and Scott butting heads with Mitch McConnell on how to even run the GOP and what their plan should be. They both, I think, will easily score just 10 plus elections this coming around. I would also say that in Montana, John Tester is someone who the DNC was begging pretty much on their knees for him to run because he's the only Democrat who could even get close to winning. But I think that this election cycle, that it is just an easy layup as well. We're already at 51 for the GOP, and there's 8 seats left. It is actually pretty crazy looking at how many seats they could still pick up potentially. But we can fill out some of these for the Democrats as well, because they do have some seats. I think New Mexico, Virginia, there's really no one that the GOP has put up that shows me that there's any way for them to really lose these seats. You could also say the same for a lot of these Rust Belts as well. I think Pennsylvania, Michigan, and we'll even say Wisconsin, honestly, against some judgments there, depending on who the GOP is willing to put in as the main person and honestly how much funding they're willing to give them. That one could be a pickup for them as well. We're at 51 to 46. I think Sherrod Brown in Ohio is another really interesting one as well, because honestly, Ohio in an election year, I think it will go for Trump, but I do think that he might actually be able to slightly get through there. His polling is actually pretty good. for the state. And while you do see numbers that JD Vance did put up in this last cycle in 2022, I would say that the numbers that Sherrod Brown put up during his own in 2018 were pretty good. We go look, +6 isn't bad. He's actually same as what they lot in Michigan. And while he did underperform some of the others here, he was someone who was supposed to actually lose. If you go look back at the polling, he was expected to lose during 2018 when you had Missouri, Indiana, Florida, North Dakota, all these places that just flipped because of centrist Democrats and corporate Democrats who were already out the door or knew their careers were sunsetting. But he was able to run on a populist message and was able to honestly come back and embarrass a lot of people who said he was going to lose, especially when right next door he was able to make Donnelly kind of look, really embarrassing. The next two states are really interesting because they could go either way. And there's some huge issues with one of them in particular. If we look at Arizona, Arizona is kind of like in a three-way race right now because no one knows if Kyrsten Sinema is going to run for re-election. She hasn't really said anything at the moment. Her own party pretty much doesn't want her there. She's been a huge nuisance for a lot of people in the DNC because she just kind of has decided that she's more into being a corporatist Democrat than anything right now. And on the flip side of that, you have the GOP, who the state party is struggling for money. They spent a lot of their money on trying to overturn the last election, and it's kind of put them in a bind, whether you agree with that notion or not. There was a point where they had $700,000 in their treasury, and now they're down to like $100,000 or less, which is, I don't know how they expect to come up with enough funds in less than a year to go through primaries and fund these candidates that they really need to be funding if they want to have any chance of being realistically successful. But you also have problems of who their candidate could be. Kari Lake has suggested that she's the only one who can win in Arizona, which, whether, again, you agree with that or not, that could get the ire of Mitch McConnell, who this last election cycle showed that if he doesn't like the candidate, he's willing to withhold funds. And if he withholds funds from Arizona when they're already tanking when it comes to money, this could be a huge missed opportunity for the party in general. And I think that that's something they really need to look into and be careful about. But honestly, right now, if we're saying that Kyrsten Sinema stays in and you're splitting some of those like John McCain Republicans that she says that she's the huge proponent of, and you're able to cut that in half, I think that even if you have Kari Lake running, I think that she comes out on top just barely, because you also have to factor in that with it being a presidential election year, the state could go either way. Nevada is another one where I think that it'll go for Joe Biden, but honestly, when it comes to these Senate races, if we look back at these races, Rosen actually did pretty decent their last go around. But if we look not even that far back, just these last elections, Masto was barely able to pull ahead. Honestly, I think that Laxalt could run again if they truly wanted to, and they could come out on top in this race as well, depending on, again, the hugest thing is funding. Funding seems to be the hugest contention for a lot of the problems that the GOP has right now, because for some reason, it's just like, oh, if I don't like you, I'm willing to throw being in the majority if I don't like you, which is a really stupid way of looking at things. But I would say that this is another area where I think that they will end up coming on top just barely. But when we really look at that at the end, 53-47 is huge. We're looking at, just absolute bloodbath levels. And honestly, you could even argue that it could come up to, 54 in Ohio if Sherrod Brown underperforms and Trump overperforms with whoever he endorses in that eventual race. And I think that right now, the DNC is honestly just searching for somewhere, somehow, some way to be able to change their fate in a lot of these areas. like they're trying to with Montana with John Tester, but I'm just not really seeing it in a lot of these places. I don't know, guys. What do you think? At the end of the day, this is what I think is probable right now, but you know, a lot of new stuff can come out over time and stuff can change, obviously. But I think right now, with us being this far out, this is what is the most realistic thing that could happen at this moment. And just let me know what you guys think. If you guys think any of these could change, and thank you guys so much for watching.